What's up, comic book fans? Anchor Pete here, and I'm with my good friend Brian, Mr. Corshair. How you doing tonight?
Doing good, Pete. It's been a long time.
I know. We have so much ground to cover. This is Comic Books Transformed, and Brian and I cover all your favorite shows, movies, and all other kind of media that have been adapted from the comic books that you love. In this case tonight, we're talking about two major comic book franchises. We're talking about What If, and we're talking about Hawkeye. They are both comics from Marvel that have been adapted into Disney Plus shows. So Brian and I are going to talk about What If first, and then we're going to talk about the Hawkeye trailer. So Brian, I figured that you and we should talk about the most current episode of What If, and then we can go back and cover the last two.
Oh, okay. All right, sure.
Okay. All right. So this week's episode was What If Killmonger had rescued Tony Stark, right?
Yes.
And it's another one of those episodes where you have some returning voice actors, and then you have some people that are like, wait, that's not Robert Downey Jr. And it's always amazing, like, which people they can get to come back, and then which people don't come back, right?
Yes. I was like, I mean, a lot of the times also, I think the actors that don't come back, who are replaced by, regular voice actors, I think they're better sometimes.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I noticed they had the reporter from Iron Man 2 in this, and they actually got Leslie Bibb for like 2 lines.
I know. It's so crazy. They get these like big actors and actresses that are in these movies. They headline movies, but then they're only in for like 2 lines of dialogue.
Yeah, it absolutely blows my mind.
Yeah, but I was super happy to see Michael K. Jordan back as Killmonger.
Yeah, isn't it Michael B. Jordan?
Michael B. Jordan too. I'm getting Michael K. Williams, who unfortunately just died, and Michael.
Yes. Okay.
There we go. You know what I'm trying to say.
Way too many people die.
Yeah, I know that you are not as big a Black Panther fan as I am. It's I think my like number 2 MCU movie.
Yes.
But one of the main reasons why I love that movie so much is because of Killmonger. I think that Michael B. Jordan just like dominates that movie.
Absolutely. And I mean, I almost feel bad saying this because Chadwick Boseman has passed, but I think that he was basically outshined by every other character in that movie almost, And yeah. I don't mean that any disrespect there. It was just maybe the way they were written, or I'm not really sure. But that also being said, the scenes that Chadwick Boseman has been in this What If series overall have been absolute like series highlights for me, which is really weird.
Yeah. This show does a fantastic job of weaving in random characters into things. Obviously we were going to get people from Wakanda since Killmonger's in this episode, but they got pretty much like the entire Iron Man cast for this. I mean, not all the voice actors, but like the characters, and then the Black Panther characters. And essentially it was like a war between the Iron Man trilogy and the Black Panther franchise.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, did you like this episode? Let me ask you that first off.
That's a hard one. So while I was watching the episode, I was definitely enjoying it, and I enjoyed the many twists of the motivations of Killmonger. I feel like he was playing both sides a lot, and I found it very interesting. But it was this episode at the end of it that really like hammered home for me that there has to be sequels to these episodes in the pipeline.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
There's no way that they can just like this was the most unfulfilling ending, I suppose, out of the entire series so far. Like it just felt like where it ended just was not really a stopping point,
Yeah, I agree. It had so much momentum, and it was kind of like, okay, we have this scene, and now it's building up, and we have now this moment from Black Panther, and it's building up, and it just sort of just peters out at the very end.
Yeah, it was a really weird ending. And also, I have to bring this up because this is the thing that bothered me most. Why was Shuri like 12?
I'm really glad that you asked that, because I was trying to think of like time-wise when this episode took place. And so it's like Iron Man 1, right? Which isn't like Iron Man, the first one, 2008.
Yes, and I was trying to think of that too, but it's just like seeing um, T'Challa already as Black Panther, seeing Claw already in the mix, and I mean, and just the general fact that that Killmonger looks exactly the same. I mean,
Yeah.
I understand that Shuri's supposed to be younger, but like I didn't think she would be that much younger. Even like how many years later does Black Panther take place than Iron Man? It's not a full 10 years, is it?
That's a good question. I always wonder about the Marvel movies, like if they're supposed to be the year that they come out. And I know that some of them are like taking place in the same year, even though they might be a couple of years apart. But I think that like Civil War and Black Panther are like at least like 2015, like at least, right? So maybe
See,
like
I really want to look at the timelines of the passage of time in this for these movies, because I mean, I know that they say that Iron Man 2 and then Hulk and Thor all take place within a week.
yeah.
But I understand that we know Iron Man 1 came out in 2008, but at this point in the MCU, especially after the blip, we're past the current time, so it doesn't seem right that the movies have been going on for almost 20 years. You know?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, because Iron Man's the first one. That's 2008. So like essentially it could be 13 years. But you were 100% right that like it's not that big a window. It's probably like, what would you say? Would you say maybe it's like 8 years or 7?
Yes, probably a safer bet.
Okay, so like maybe Shuri, maybe there's like a 5-year difference between this episode and like when we see Shuri and Black Panther.
Okay, but and still, I think it's still a little weird that she looks like she's 12.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's such a not important thing, but it was just something in the back of my head, like something just doesn't feel right about this.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we spent like 3 minutes talking about it because that's what our viewers love, the minutia. But as a guy that's a father of 2 little girls, I can see though like those big growth spurts. I look at my daughter who's like taller than my wife now. I'm like, holy shit. So
oh wow.
Shuri had some growth spurts in Wakanda. So with this episode, it's interesting because Tony is not really altruistic, right? Like he doesn't have that experience that changes his character. And so he kind of acts more like his father that we've seen in the MCU, especially the younger version of his father. And Killmonger, you actually kind of think in the beginning that Tony maybe is sort of a good influence on Killmonger, but then as we go further along, it's like, oh no, he's got that same plan that he had in Black Panther. It's just he's taking his time.
Yeah, it's really that he's exactly the same. He just took a different path to get where he is.
Yeah, and it was great to see Rhodey. It was especially cool to see the Don Cheadle version of Rhodey, like in that original Iron Man time.
Oh wow, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. That's obviously a first there because that's very interesting.
Yeah, and so then when they killed him, I was like, holy shit, that's kind of shocking because it's just a cold-blooded murder, but that's kind of the way that these what if comics go. And so go
ahead.
No, they take him out and they end up killing Tony too with that Wakandan spear, and you feel it because he's dispatched in such a sort of like it's not heroic. It's just he's just murdered, and it feels wrong.
Not to mention murdering Black Panther as well.
Yeah.
They kill War Machine, Black Panther, and Tony Stark within a span of like 3 minutes.
Yeah. And wasn't the gun that they used to kill T'Challa? Wasn't that weapon that like Obadiah Stane used in the first Iron Man movie that like makes you get those weird veins on the side of your head?
See, I was wondering about that because I was very curious, and that sounds about right. But it's been a long time since I've watched the first Iron Man, so that's definitely something to go back and look into.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I was going to ask you. Do you think that it's intentional that you had a scene at the very end with Shuri and Pepper Potts, as if like they might be going the way of like Riri Williams, but with Shuri in the MCU?
That is a very interesting idea, especially now that we've heard that the actress playing Riri Williams was seen on the set of Black Panther 2.
Oh, okay. So they cast her.
Yes. Oh, yeah. They cast her. I don't remember the actress's name. It is somebody newer. I mean, she is very, very young. I want to say she's like 14 or 15 or something like that. But she is. Okay. She was seen on the set of Black Panther 2. So
okay, that's interesting. Okay, so they're probably going to try to like combine those franchises, which it's so ironic, right? Because in the Iron Man franchise, you have the main hero is dead, and in the Black Panther franchise, the actor that plays him is dead. And so T'Challa, we're assuming that T'Challa is going to die in the movies. And so you're going to have essentially these two franchises without the lead men kind of merging together, I think.
Yeah, it's very similar to what happened with the end of The Dark Knight. You had the Joker lives, but Heath Ledger doesn't, and Harvey Dent dies, but Aaron Eckhart's still around. Although I haven't seen him in anything in a long time. Yeah, but like I said before, this episode really drove home that there has to be a second part of this somewhere. Yeah. And it really reminded me of the original Justice League cartoons on Cartoon Network. Yeah, the extension of the Timverse. Every one of those episodes was 2 episodes because they were like these like big epic, story arcs. And I feel like maybe they're going that route, but it's interesting that they're not showing the complete story at once. That we're either going to get it in the back half of the season, which I think is less likely, or more likely going to be in season 2. But at the same time, I hope season 2 isn't just all continuations of the episodes of season 1. I feel like for the most part, every episode could continue, maybe with the exception of 4. The Doctor Strange episode, I feel like that one was pretty much said and done.
Really?
I think.
Okay. Because I feel like that one could actually be like the impetus for a big event or something, where like an evil Doctor Strange bursts out of there. Because it's so weird that like, what was he like saved in like a gem or something?
Yeah, it seemed like he crystallized himself in some manner, and he was kind of stuck in there. But I mean, the way I took it is that he seemed remorseful at the end after they merged together. Okay. So to me, it seems just like an incredibly tragic tale, where he realizes his mistakes and he just has to deal with it by the end.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that episode in like 2 minutes too. But I was going to ask you with the point that you're making, you don't think that like every episode is essentially just like a setup, and that the very last episode is going to be like, what if the worlds collided? And then it's like a team of the people.
Oh, so do we fit? Oh man. So, I mean, that kind of goes along with one of my initial theories from one of our first reviews, where I felt like these were going to combine some way. That does make a lot of sense, but I don't think it's going to do the individual stories justice. Like I think they deserve to be fleshed out on their own for the most part. Like I think the Captain Carter episode could absolutely feed into something else because it was just her coming back. There's nothing really other than that. But maybe with the T'Challa Star-Lord episode, I don't really remember what happened at the end of it. I mean, that was the one that was like super positive. Really, it's like, oh, everything's great. Oh, you see. You say
that, right? But then the Dairy Queen with Ego showing up, right?
Yes, that could be leading to something. Absolutely. Then what if all the Avengers died? I mean, obviously Loki takes over. Like we have to find out what happens there.
Right.
We talked about Doctor Strange with the zombies episode. We see Thanos show up, and with 5 of the Infinity Gems as a zombie. I mean, and also that they went off. The survivors went off to Wakanda to finish that cure. So I think that really there needs to be resolution on all of these things for the most part. But I just don't think that any of them, with the exception of Captain Carter, could be combined in a satisfying enough way to resolve the storylines they presented.
Okay. All right. That's really well said. You're basically saying that, like, there's more to their stories, and like just bringing them together isn't satisfying enough.
Yeah, because and this was always an issue with the What If comics too, is that they're cramming so much time into these comics,
Yeah.
in 20 pages or 25 minutes or whatever it is, that they all feel very rushed. So to rush them even by that kind of a factor would make it even worse.
Yeah, that's a really good point too. I don't know. I mean, just in general, I am growing to like love this series more and more. And what you're saying is like, I actually would love to see the next part for each of those stories too.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely want to see them.
Yeah, because like to me, when I turn the episode on in the morning before I go to work, and that intro, I love that intro now where they just have the characters and it looks like they're almost kind of like behind crystal or glass, and you hear Uatu's voiceover. I just love it. I get more excited every time I hear that now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Although there's one or two times where Uatu had like kind of like a more informal dialogue.
Yeah.
No, that's not right. No, you can't do that.
Yeah. I forget what the hell he says, and it's not this episode. It's like 2 episodes. He's like, then that happened, or something. He says something.
Yeah. I was like, no, that's not something Uatu would say.
Right. He's not a joker. Yeah. So why don't we backtrack for a second before we get to Hawkeye, and let's talk about those other 2 episodes, because I really wanted to hear what you thought about what if Doctor Strange had lost his heart instead of his hands, and then what if zombies. So do you think that what if Doctor Strange lost his heart, do you think that one is the weakest episode of the series so far?
You know what's funny is that when I initially watched it, that was my impression.
Yeah.
That it was the weakest, because one of my issues with it is that I think they basically had everybody reprising a role in that episode too. Yeah. I thought Benedict Cumberbatch did not do a great job with the voice acting, and that really put me off on the episode. But I actually rewatched the second half of it just before this, just to refresh my memory, because I was a little fuzzy on what happened. And I ended up enjoying it a lot more because, like I said before, I think it was the most self-contained episode. And it really shows a very specific, tragic story that, and I think it might be one of the closest ones to like an actual what if comic, because they all really are self-contained. Like they don't really continue for the most part. Yeah. And it just resonated a little bit more with me the second time around than it did the first. Yeah,
very well put. Because like it doesn't spin off into like, oh well, now there's Thor over here or Spider-Man's over there. It's just all Doctor Strange. It's all very much set in the Doctor Strange movie, like the original movie. And that was one thing I wanted to bring up about these episodes too. Is it's kind of incredible because the show doesn't really reference Marvel comics at all. Like obviously all this is Marvel stuff, but everything they reference is a thing in a movie or a show. And I think that's kind of incredible. Like there's not like, oh, all of a sudden we have this guy that we've only introduced in the comics, or we're referring to a thing that's only in the comics. It's like there's so much Marvel continuity from the movies that's all they need to reference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's 25 movies. I mean, and we're only really looking at a handful of them so far. So yeah, it really does work. It really works for them to keep the comic book notes to a minimum.
Yeah, and so they do, and I really like this is just like right in the Doctor Strange movie, and it's got this great premise because he, his whole motivation, his whole driving factor is he can't be a surgeon anymore. But then they shift that so that he loses Christina, right? Is that the girlfriend?
Christine, yeah, Christine.
Right. So yeah, and so Rachel McAdams I thought did a better job as Christine than he did as Strange.
Absolutely. And also just although he really wasn't in the episode very much, but with this and his appearance in Shang-Chi, I'm kind of becoming like a Wong fan. Oh, like I really like Benedict Wong like as Wong.
Yes, I agree. They are like really kind of pushing him out right now. They're really making him a big part of the MCU, and he's just great. And it's interesting because like in the comics, he's always so subservient to Strange. But in this episode and in what we've seen for the Spider-Man trailer and in Shang-Chi, it's like he's his own thing. He doesn't need Strange. You know, they're like equals almost.
Yeah, and I find that refreshing in a way, and I just really enjoyed his performance over from what I've seen lately.
Yeah. So Tilda Swinton is in this friggin' episode too, and I was going to ask you, like, what did you think about her splitting Strange into two people? Did you feel like that was too like convoluted? Did you like that?
It was a little out there, I suppose, and
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about continuity of this too. The idea that they had this idea of an anchor point. Was it an anchor point?
I don't think maybe it was. It was a fixed point in time, right?
Yeah, like a fixed point in time, and it was interesting to me that this was a fixed point that couldn't be overcome, but that's not how we saw it happen in the movie.
Right.
I found that could be kind of conflicting and confusing in a way. So it made the splitting of the two kind of weird, I guess. But ultimately, I think it made sense to me. So you saw what would happen. It was like a what if inside a what if.
Right.
And now I put it that way, I like it better. But what I really liked about it was that you saw the path. You saw them get up to a point, and then you saw it diverge.
Right.
And I mean, the bad Doctor Strange, it seemed like he was, consuming all these like crazy demons for like decades and decades and stuff. So I don't know how the Ancient One thought that the good Doctor Strange, who was still at the point where right after they diverge, could beat him. It makes no sense really. But I enjoyed the battle between the two sides of him, and then ultimately I think the two coming together was what made him remorseful at the end. So I think it was definitely necessary to do that, and I did like it. And honestly, I really liked that. Just the whole, just really hammering home the tragedy of it was he gets what he wants. He saves Christine, but the first thing she sees is this monster. Like it was almost like Beauty and the Beast in a way. And I just it's perfect irony.
Yeah, it is just like those what if comics that it feels the most like one, just like you said. And to me, I felt like it was kind of convoluted for them to split into two timelines, but it does have that satisfying story of like a man essentially against his dark side. So even though it's this convoluted thing to get to that point in the story, it still works on a dramatic level. It's almost
go ahead.
It's almost like those like Russian nesting dolls, like what you were saying before. It's like it's a what if within a what if, right? Yeah.
And also we know how much the MCU likes to pit their hero against a dark version of themselves in a way. So this is literally a little more literal in that sense.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. So I mean, it was cool, and you have that scene where Strange is like asking the Watcher for help, and Uatu's like, "I can't help you. I'm not a god." And so he's essentially screwed,
And honestly, that might have been that might have been really what hammered home that my change of heart on the episode is I really loved that scene, that interaction in particular, and that was very much something you would see the Watcher say in the comics, and the few times he does interact with people in the MCU in the 616 universe.
Yeah, Brian, this is a miracle here. We actually have a comment from a viewer. We haven't had one of these in a while. You have heard about rumors of Dr. Voodoo cameo in Doc Strange. That's from MJ. So is Dr. Voodoo, I don't think that's a Marvel character, right? Isn't it Dr. Druid, right? Or who's the guy that was on the Uncanny Avengers?
Yeah, that was Dr. Druid, yeah.
Wait,
wow, man. And are we talking about the movie or this episode? Because I don't remember seeing anything in the episode like that.
Yeah, well, that was kind of the weird thing too. Was when he was like absorbing people into him. It was really just like creatures, right? And I just wanted to bring up this little point, this little thing.
Brother Voodoo. Sorry, Brother Voodoo.
Brother Voodoo. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Brother Voodoo is the one that was on the Uncanny Avengers, or is that a different character?
I think that's the one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that'd be awesome. He's a cool character. I really like his backstory, and he was cool in like the comics I've read him in. He's been in a couple Avengers books. So thanks, MJ, for writing in. We appreciate it. I was going to say that when Strange was absorbing creatures and getting more powerful, the first creature he absorbs is this like gnome that has these like big sharp teeth.
Yep.
And AC Bradley is the writer for most of these episodes, and she wrote for these Arcadia shows on Netflix. And so on Troll Hunters, that little gnome guy is from that show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Just one more little bit. I did forget. I'm pretty sure that why MJ said Dr. Voodoo is because Brother Voodoo does become the Sorcerer Supreme at some point in the comics. So that's why that was throwing me off. I just forgot about that. So yeah. So that would be really cool to see in the second Doctor Strange movie. I have not heard that rumor at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, if we're talking about the episode, I definitely don't remember any characters other than Doctor Strange and Christine Wong, the Ancient One, and that's it, really.
Yeah, because they could have brought in the villain. They could have brought in like Caecilius or whatever, the one that Mads Milk played. I just fuck up everybody's names when I say things. And then they could have brought in Baron Mordo too, but they didn't bring him in at all.
Oh wait a minute, no, there was that other guy. There was another character in the episode.
Oh yeah. There was that dude that. Oh, I'm so glad. Good job, MJ. Because I thought, okay, here's one thing about that episode. Wow, we're talking about this episode for a lot of time.
Yeah.
So Strange goes into that weird world to go study for years and absorb creatures, right?
Yes.
And that world totally looked like the TVA, right? From Loki. And it had all this stuff to do with time. And I was thinking, like, that guy in the library that dies because he gets old, right?
Yeah.
He said that he was the servant of someone that, like, who wrote the book that Strange was using. And I was like, is that a version of Kang?
Interesting. Maybe. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I'll definitely. Obang.
Oban was the guy in the library?
Obang. Obengh.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that because I don't really remember.
Because he has a particular book. Like Strange is looking at this one book, and it's like the book of Dionysus or something. It's not that, but I'm just saying that as an example. and then it's like I wanted to look up, is that a version of Kang? Because I knew it had something to do with time. Because Strange's whole quest is to like break a fixed point in time. So it was like it would make sense if it was like a guy that was connected to Kang, or it was Kang, you know.
He's doing research related to the Darkhold. And it's Cagliostro?
Cagliostro, that's it. Yes. Good job.
Okay.
Man, that's pretty sad how like you looking at Wikipedia can get me that excited. That's a weird world we live in.
Yeah.
But now that we spent like 45 minutes talking about the episode, I think that nobody likes as much as we do. Let's talk about what?
Wait, actually, I was looking at IMDb earlier just to check some voice actors for these episodes, and the Doctor Strange one is actually the highest rated one out of all of them so far.
Really?
Which I found very surprising, actually. So maybe we're wrong about that. Maybe that really is the more popular one.
Oh, shit. Okay. I was thinking that the one that everyone loves is the zombie one. I was thinking it's probably a tie between that one and so far the Star-Lord T'Challa one. So, like, what did you think of What If ... Zombies?
My initial viewing, I loved it, and I had so much to say about it initially, and then I rewatched it with my son, and it took a step down a little bit actually. So, two of the things I really liked about there is they actually did throw a couple comic references in there. They're very, very vague references, but I have to think that like we mentioned before, the Doctor Strange's cape and Spider-Man, that has to be a reference to What If Wolverine was Lord of the Vampires. It has to be. Like, there's no doubt in my mind about that. And then also T'Challa's presence in the episode.
Yeah. Okay.
With the leg and it was different characters involved, but the purpose was the same. That happened in Marvel Zombies, as well as the head in the jar. Although again, different character, but that also was something that happened in the Marvel Zombies comics. So I appreciated those little, very small nods to those comics.
Okay. I'm really glad you brought that T'Challa. Yeah. So the comic, just for you guys that don't know what we're referencing, Robert Kirkman, who wrote Invincible, which we love the show of that and the comic, he made a whole Marvel Zombies series of books, and that's what this drew to me.
Really, you got to mention when you're talking about Robert Kirkman and zombies, you really got to mention Walking Dead too. I mean, that's why they had him write those comics.
It's probably a good point to bring that up. Yeah, good point. So that comic was a huge hit, and this episode definitely seemed to capture the feel of it. It had that feel, except that with the Marvel Zombies comic, the zombies can still talk. They can use their powers and do everything like they do in this episode, but they can talk and rationalize, which I thought was kind of interesting. And that comic is way more disturbing than this episode too.
Oh yeah, like I actually remember like feeling nauseous reading it at various points when I first read those books, and I think I read the first 3 series of it, and I don't think I finished much after that. But yeah, it is very one of the more disturbing comics, especially when you consider that it's all these mainstream characters. Because there are plenty of really messed up comics out there that are more indie in nature. But right. Yeah, definitely disturbing.
So they did this great job of like murdering people, and it was scary for a cartoon, but like it was never too graphic. At one point, Steve Rogers like eats Sharon Carter, and all you kind of hear is chewing, and it's like in the shadows, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at one point also, Hope Van Dyne is like overrun by zombies, and she's in a giant man form and taken down. But it never gets too gross for a Disney show, right?
Yeah, it's essentially a PG-13 horror movie, really. Yeah. I think they did a good job of including kind of like a ragtag group that survived, which is very much a staple of zombie movies.
Right.
One of the downsides I felt this episode had was it was a little bit too much humor, and I felt that there was they were a little too jovial, being that all their friends some of their friends were just eaten, moments prior, or and really all their loved ones are dead at this point. I think what hammered that fact home the most was when Hope blew up Sharon. It's like, oh, I got Sharon on me, which is, I laughed at first, but like the second time I saw it, like, wow, that's like dark to make a joke out of that.
It sure is. Yeah. It's kind of like channeling sort of like Shaun of the Dead or something like that, or Zombieland, where you kind of joke about things, even though it's really disturbing. But I mean, that's kind of the way the comic was. It was very like dark humor. That part bothered me too when that happened. There were kind of noble sacrifices, like when Hope killed herself, or like when Bucky kind of sacrificed himself, or even the Hulk too. But yeah, you're right.
Okay, well, wait a minute. Well, I mean, I have some theories about those two, actually.
Bucky and Hulk?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily think Bucky's dead. Yeah, he got thrown. He didn't get bitten or anything like that. I mean, he's got the cap shield. He very easily could have landed on something. He might be alive out there. And then Hulk. I mean, when you see, we have kind of repeat of Infinity War where Hulk doesn't want to come out, and it's just Bruce Banner. But there's a moment where Hulk's arm kind of forms, and it's strong enough to repel a zombie bite from Scarlet Witch. Right. So, I mean, I'm thinking full-on Hulk, maybe in the MCU here, might not be able to get bitten. So he might still be there as well.
Yeah, okay.
And really, like, with those two characters out there, the other 3 characters at the end going to Wakanda, the threat of Thanos with the 5 of the 6 stones. I mean, they really have to address this in the second episode. They're like,
Yeah, I agree. I was trying to think of like, well, what happens next? Logically, what happens next? They were going to like emit some kind of sound from using the mind gem, right, or the mind stone.
Yeah.
And it was going to fix everybody. But I'm guessing that the people that, okay, Ant-Man was fixed totally, right? But then the implication is that Thanos would have been returned to his regular state, and then he would just do his snap, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little confused about how the cure went. I mean, obviously the Mind Stone was putting off some kind of barrier to keep the zombies away. I don't really understand how that worked in the sense because there were I mean, Wanda was in the base and she wasn't being repelled necessarily. I mean, maybe she was because she was stronger, but it seemed like it required a lot more energy to actually cure someone. So I was confused if they were just gonna use it as more of like a protection barrier for the remaining, the remains of humanity, or if it was actually going to be some like full-on cure. And I don't necessarily know how that works. I mean, how is so in the Marvel Zombies comic, the scene they referenced with the head in the jar, that's actually Janet Van Dyne, and it's a zombie head. She's still zombified, but she's kind of cured of like the hunger of being a zombie. And in this, it's like they turned Paul Rudd's head into a human again. But A, how is his head surviving? And B, part of being zombie is decomposition. I mean, like, how is everyone gonna magically have Wolverine healing ability or something like that? Like, how does that work exactly? So I'm kind of thinking it's more like protecting what's left rather than actually curing what's there.
Okay, so then you have like a zombie Thanos wielding the Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, but they still have to get that mind gem from them in Wakanda. So,
oh yeah, he'll be going for that. That's true. Yeah, it was really good. I mean, I was really excited about when they chose to set it, because that's another thing that's real exciting about this is that they've been jumping around, and I was kind of wondering if these were going in linear order, but then the Iron Man thing obviously is towards the beginning, and we just had that with this episode. But it was cool that they started off like right when Hulk lands on Earth at the beginning of Infinity War,
Yeah.
So it was
and
cool.
Also, another thing too is that they're really driving home like evil Hank Pyms, or like evil things relating to Hank Pym.
Yeah.
With the third episode and this one, and there was another thing too. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head now.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. When he was like kind of like the assassin taking out the Avengers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they robbed him of creating Ultron, so this is sort of like redemption.
True.
Yeah. That when the Avengers show up in the zombie horde, and then you just see like the little Hank Pym just eating Steve Rogers' neck. That was fantastic. That might have been my favorite part.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, so we covered those 3 episodes. I'm eagerly looking forward to what I guess there's 3 more or no?
There's 9 total. So this was 5, so we got 4 more.
No, I thought that Killmonger was 6.
Was it 6?
Right, it was 4, 5, 6.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yes, I'm sorry. You're right. Yes, that was 6. So we have 3 more.
Real quickly, which one is your favorite out of all the 6 so far?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, my knee-jerk reaction is gonna be the zombies one, but I mean, I'm really gonna have to sit down and think about this. At some other point, because I'm not sure.
The zombies one might be my favorite, but I do get turned off by the humor, like kind of like not caring about the characters. And I also like that one where the Avengers get taken out one by one.
Yeah, that's probably a close second, and I think, and I really think that it's. If they are going to continue these in further episodes, I think it does it a disservice to kind of rank them in a way until we see the full picture,
Okay, yeah, good point. Yeah, well, we got 3 more episodes to go. We'll see what they do next. I know that I did see when I was on IMDb looking up stuff, they had a picture of like Sharon Carter with like, I think Gamora was behind her, but it was the Captain Carter. So I think that might be the next episode is something that has Captain Carter and Gamora together. So we'll see what that's about. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's definitely an episode where we've seen Gamora with Thanos's double-bladed thing, sword.
Yeah.
And there's also there's definitely a Thor-based episode coming at some point, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what the third one can be. Maybe the third one is some of these heroes coming together. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. But I'm just digging this series more and more every week.
Absolutely.
So, okay, that brings us, bro, to the next thing to talk about, bro, which is, of course, the Hawkeye show, which everyone has started to compare it to Die Hard because it takes place during Christmas. But I'm not excited about that comparison. What I'm excited about is that it seems like a pretty spot-on adaptation of Matt Fraction's Hawkeye run.
Yes, and which is probably easily one of my all-time favorite Marvel runs, by far. I think it's important to note that prior to seeing this trailer, reading that comic and seeing the MCU movies and this version of Hawkeye, I didn't think there was like any way, shape, or form they could squeeze anything like that comic into this. But it seems like they did. So I'm very happy. I'm very excited. I like full on hype train for this one.
So what's the artist's name? Is it Aja is his last name, right?
David Aja, yeah. I'm hoping maybe Aja. I'm not really sure.
Aja. Right, Aja.
It's AJA.
Yeah. He deserves credit just like Matt Fraction because his artwork and what they do visually. I know that like Matt Fraction would give him notes and it would just be kind of like random notes and he would sort of compile the shots or the panels in the comic. That comic is something else, man. It is so good. And we just enjoyed talking about it when it came out like every month. But you're right. They're able to make the MCU Hawkeye, who's very different from the Marvel Comics Hawkeye, they're able to kind of blend them together. And I think that they do it by having him feel guilt about being Ronin and then he chooses to stay in New York. And I think that the one thing that maybe both Hawkeyes have in common is that they kind of get beaten up and they're not necessarily like the complete badass. They're more like durable, but a good shot. Right?
Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah.
So, I mean, like there's multiple shots in this trailer where he is just like falling into things or getting punched in the face. So that's very much like the comic.
Absolutely. Yeah. He definitely takes a beating in the comic.
Yeah. But I mean, it's that kind of thing where they show the trailer and guys like you and me were like, oh my God, it's this thing that we know. It's like, you have the Lucky the Pizza Dog, you have the Tracksuit Mafia. What else am I missing that they referenced?
I mean, those are the main things there. But I mean, we also know that the Clown will be a villain appearing in the show. There's actually rumors of Kingpin showing up. Vincent D'Onofrio showing up as Kingpin. I don't know how much I believe that or how that could work in.
Right.
But I mean, Ronin is in here. Obviously, that's not necessarily from the Fraction series, but I mean, Hawkeye did take on that role after in New Avengers.
Yeah.
And what else was there? I mean, just Kate Bishop. I mean, that's when that character like became like one of my favorite characters.
Yeah,
was that run. So I'm so happy to see her being used. And I think there was a scene that was straight out of the comics where they're driving a car and Clint's like telling like, oh, not that one. And I feel like Haley Steinfeld is just absolutely going to nail this.
Yep. Yeah. With the exclusion of her wearing the Ronin costume, everything else that she did in that trailer seemed like Kate Bishop. And just like you, for me, Kate Bishop is like top 10 favorite Marvel characters for me.
Yep.
Yeah, she seems spot on. And there seems to be like a set piece where they're at like the Rockefeller ice skating rink, like where they, the building where they record Saturday Night Live. And it looks like maybe they're jumping into the harbor at one point. Maybe they're on the Staten Island ferry. We'll see. I mean, I just love that it's like in New York. It's Christmas time. Super excited about all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I saw like someone on YouTube was showing that like Hawkeye has things in his ears, which in the comic, in the Hawkeye comic, he goes deaf at one point.
Yeah, that was something from that run. Yeah, I didn't notice anything in his ears in the trailer. That's a good catch.
Yeah, probably my favorite part in the trailer was when one of the Trenchcoat Mafia is shooting at his building. They throw a Molotov cocktail. He catches it and throws it back.
Right back.
Yeah.
That was a good moment.
I'm trying to think. Like, we're supposed to get Black Widow, like the sister, right, in this one.
Yes, Yelena is supposed to be in this as well. I can't imagine how they're going to tie that in overall. I mean, other than we know that she wants to hunt down Clint. I really don't know how that fits in with this storyline. And that could be something that deviates it from the comic run, really, because the comic run was really about just the tracksuit mafia and Hawkeye's having his little street level adventures on his own.
Yeah, he's like a landlord of this building, and you kind of get to know the people living in the building. It's great. What was I going to say now? Wow, I completely forgot my thought. There's 8 episodes, right? And then I think is it coming in October?
I believe it's November.
Okay. So there's a little bit of gap between What If and this. But I always look in the behind the scenes to see who's like the showrunner and stuff. And for this, you have Jonathan Igla, which it looks like he was a writer on Mad Men. And he was a producer on Bridgerton, which my wife would love that because she loves that show. But I think having a writer from Mad Men, that's quite a pedigree for like an MCU show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I never watched Mad Men. It's always one of those where I want to get around to watching it, but I know that was like high quality show like Breaking Bad, where people thought of that as like prestige television. So to have like a writer from that show as the showrunner, I think that's a really good sign.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I watched, I think it's only the first season of Mad Men. I don't remember why I didn't continue it, but yeah, it was a great show.
Awesome. Yeah. So do you have anything else to say about the Hawkeye trailer?
No, this that I'm really excited for. I mean, this was the one I was looking forward to most, and I'm really happy that, we talked about that when they had the previews of all the shows that were coming out from that Disney press day, media day, whatever it was. Yeah. And I really hope it lives up to my hopes for it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I remember we had a little ranking system, and we had like Uatu was like
that's right. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And then we had Daredevil if we were okay with not seeing it. So yeah, that's fun. So I feel the same way. I'm super excited about seeing the show. That trailer just like was the perfect kind of trailer for it. And they're just killing it. And it just seems like it just is one thing after the next, one show after the next, and then a movie in between. It's crazy.
Yeah, we have a couple movies coming up.
Yeah, no kidding, right? Eternals and Venom is coming out soon too, right?
Venom, that's right. Yeah, Venom.
I heard a kind of a big spoiler about the post-credit scene
for Venom. Interesting.
Yeah. I'm not going to ruin it because they showed Tom Hardy at the premiere saying like, "Don't spoil the post-credit scene." So I like Tom Hardy, and today's his birthday, so I'm not going to ruin it. Yeah. He's jumping in the lobster tank right now, enjoying his day. But yeah, so
my only regret is we won't be able to see it in the same theater this time.
Yeah, it does suck. Yeah, but we'll watch it. Is it one of those like straight to you can watch it at home, or you have to?
I don't think so. I think this is theaters only.
Okay, all right. I've been going to those, so that's okay.
I think for the most part, these dual releases outside of what WB's promised with HBO Max, I think they're pretty much over with at this point.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think especially with the Marvel movies, I think that's what they're going to be doing. Because like Shang-Chi was a big hit, right?
Yeah, it did pretty well. I mean, I think it was pretty much on par with Black Widow in a couple ways. So it didn't drop off as much. I don't think in that second week. So I mean, they're confident enough with the box office results that I think they're going to stick with that. So we'll be going to the theater more.
Okay, cool. Yeah, well, if they keep pumping them out, we'll keep seeing them, and we'll keep reviewing them for you guys on here. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. We can always use some more subscribers, some more people commenting, and just let us know, out of those 3 What If episodes that we just talked about, which one did you guys like the most? So until next Wednesday, Brian and I will see you guys.